Hey everybody, first time I'm ever doing this live thing on Facebook. We're going to try and take a virtual tour live of the observatory. I'm going to switch cameras, and there it is, all assembled. And we'll do a quick walk around of it first. We've got 3 bays. Hey Zwan, I'm in my backyard. Come out and say hi if you want. These 3 bays let me keep stuff inside, away from where I'm going to be working with the telescope. And over here is the door that I still need to replace, but I got it working good enough for now. Over here, there's a bit of a gap there. There's some gaps down here, and then this hinge is bent away, which lets rain get in that way. And we got a little moth hanging out here. I don't have the tools or the expertise on how to fix that, but the seal around here, that's all watertight. Go inside. We've had like 2 solid days of rain, and there's a little bit of water on the floor. And that water came in from under here. It didn't leak. In fact, I don't know of too many leaks that I've got. There's a little bit of water in this bay on the ground, and I think that happened from yesterday. I tried to move my dome, and a bunch of water came pouring out of there. It hadn't quite drained. So I think I've still got some leaks here, and of course, when I opened it, I drained a lot more water, and that all, I think, wound up in this bay. But this bay over here is practically bone dry, and this little bay over here is also practically bone dry, despite the fact that there's another hinge here that could have leaked. Not really that big. Trying to do what I can here to show you everything, and I keep getting a message here that says my connection is weak. If anybody who's watching can let me know if the video is stable or if the audio is okay, I'd appreciate that. Let me see if I can switch to... Okay, I'm switching off of Wi-Fi to my cell network. So I don't know what's going to happen with the connection, but here is the telescope inside. I've got it in a position right now where it's just out of the way if I want to get in through the door. There's the counterweight and the tripod. Down here I've got a couple of batteries. This green one powers the telescope. That's an Ego Power Plus for a electric lawnmower. I've got 2 more like it that have higher capacity. Eventually they're going to go into a larger battery like this one here, and that'll this one will get replaced. This one's actually failing on me. It's about 3 years old now, and it's a very heavy marine deep cycle battery. This little blue thing on top, that's a wireless router, and I have a wireless network in here to control everything wirelessly. Like I said, this green one here, all it does is power the mount. And the big black battery, it powers everything else. This is a power cable that goes through the mount, and its cabling comes out here. This is the power cabling. It goes up to a rig runner, and that distributes power to basically all of the stuff that you see up here. These 2 blue cables are for wireless networking. One of them comes out the back and connects to this little wireless adapter, and that wireless adapter, I believe that's the one that connects back into my mount tracking system through that little antenna there. And then I've got another one here, and that allows me to connect to this wireless router, and that wireless router connects to my laptop there, so we're fully wireless. Originally, these wireless adapters were located on this USB hub where this blue cable is there, and then this blue cable is over here. what I found out was as it moves, I would drop connection if one of those, one of the wireless points there got over in this area, and the mount ended up blocking the signal to itself. And that was a problem, so I just moved them down here out of the way. They don't ever move now, regardless of what the telescope does. So with the wireless network created, what I can do now is actually remote in. This is the computer, and that computer is sitting on top of the mount, way up there. And it controls everything. So from inside of it, I can launch the control program for the telescope. Then I'm going to, I don't know if you guys can read that, there's a lot of glare, but this is the camera. I'm going to connect the camera. Now the camera's ready. Switch over to the telescope. Try and connect the telescope, and there we go, the telescope is connected. Let's see. Let's find something here. Let's pretend we wanted to look at the sun. Let's just pretend that that was something we could do. Got a little warning here telling me don't look at the sun, but I know what I'm doing. Oh, whoops. I'm connected to the virtual mount, not the actual mount. Let me go ahead and switch to the actual mount. Okay, now we're connected. Alright, so now we have to find a home position, which that's the telescope just finding out where its physical orientation is. And again, this is all being done wirelessly. Also, if I were really doing this at night, the lid would be open, but because it looks like rain might happen at any time, I want to just leave that closed for now. Okay, so the mount found its home position. It knows its physical orientation, so let's pretend, like I said before, we wanted to go look at the sun. That's where it thinks the sun is right now. If instead I wanted to look at Saturn, just a few clicks of the mouse, it goes and it finds Saturn. Now, some of you are probably pretty familiar with the go-to operation of a telescope, so this is fairly trivial for you at this point. But because I've got this observatory all set up, and it's pretty well protected against all of the elements, I can, yeah, Ian, I was just about to say, I can leave my equipment out here overnight. In fact, it's been outside since Saturday afternoon. And even with all the rain that we've got, there's just a tiny little bit of water in here, and I know where that water came from. I don't know if you were watching before, but there's some water down in here. And I got that actually yesterday. I made the stupid mistake of trying to open this dome lid, and there was some runoff on this outside seal that came through that joint and spilled down into here. And so I've got a little bit of a puddle in that on the floor down here, but this is practically bone dry. It's practically bone dry over here, and most of the wood is actually very dry. The only water that's really on the floor is the water that I tracked in from outside when I came in. So yeah, I can leave it out here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and as soon as the sun goes down, as long as the sky is clear, I can just set my laptop up. Actually, my laptop can be in the house over here, and I could be sitting you know, in my living room over here or in my bedroom over there with the laptop, and my wireless connection should reach out into the pod and control the telescope, and I can do imaging all night long from inside my house. The only time I'd have to come back out is to rotate my dome if I wanted to view a different part of the sky. And I'm really sorry about that super tight shot. Let me back up here a little bit. So I can take this dome and rotate it around like that as I move to different parts of the sky, and that's really the only time I have to come outside. And then when I'm done for the night, I can just leave my telescope completely set up. And then the next night, if it's clear, just open the dome up and move it back and turn the telescope on, and my settings for the telescope will not have changed. It'll be static from one night to the next, and that's the benefit of having this. The door does lock. It's got a little key down here, so I can actually lock this up, and that'll keep it secure. There's a way to lock this down, which is this little bolt hole here. I can screw a bolt into there, and then there's another one right there. And if I screw those two down, then you can't open the lid from the outside. You'd have to come in through the door first, which again would be locked, and then remove those two bolts, and then, here we go, I'm going to do something stupid again, lift this up like that, and now my telescope has an unobstructed 180 degree view of the sky to the east, going from south to north. But if I wanted to change that orientation to view something on the north side, I can just push that around, and now I've got an unobstructed view to the north. Or if I wanted to view something to the south, push it around like that, step back, and hopefully you can tell that that orientation of my dome has changed. And the telescope is always in the same physical orientation, and so I don't have to worry about it changing from one night to the next. It's always going to be set up the same way. I just have to turn it on and open up the lid, and I'm ready to go. Setting up the telescope takes anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour every single night, so this just eliminates all of that setup time. And then when I'm done, I have to tear it down, and don't have to do that either. It's just literally plug and play at this point. And you know, skies are getting kind of dark. There might be more rain moving into my area. So I'm gonna try and close this. This is not that easy to do one-handed. There we go. The dome weighs like 200 pounds. So while it rotates easily on its own when it's open, when you have it closed and you got plastic rubbing on plastic, it's kind of tight. So anyway, that's a real quick tour of how the dome lid works and how the telescope is oriented inside. Here's my camera that I'm going to be imaging from. Hopefully one of these days, soon, once I have everything all dialed in, I still have to align it. It's been cloudy since I set it up. This is supposed to be pointed north through an imaginary line that runs through this axis, and I have it close to north, but I haven't seen a star since Wednesday of last week. And so I have no idea how close to north this is, but that's okay. this software program helps me find north pretty accurately. And so I'll spend a couple of hours my first night of clear skies getting this thing dialed in, and then after that it's just open up the dome and tell it, hey, take a picture of something, and hopefully I can get my network strength figured out. Ian, if you're bored one of these weekends, come on up and help me get a robust wireless network out here so we can do this from inside. So I'll give you a little bit more information about what I've got in here. These are all the things that I take to star parties. I usually go out and help an elementary school just across the street. Yeah, Ian, that's why I need a better wireless network. I had to take my cell phone off of the home Wi-Fi and turn it onto the Verizon network because the signal out here is just too weak. So I might need your help placing an access point or a range extender somewhere in my observatory. And then, hold on, let me flip this over so you guys can see my face. So I want to get a range extender or something out here so I can extend the range of this little wireless router there and get that so I have a robust strength inside of the house so I can do live telescope feeds. This camera over here is not very good for doing video. That one's more for taking still images. But this little red beast back here, that's a high-speed camera. I can do a couple of 100 frames per second with that one. And so what I'd like to do at some point is swap this one out for this one for one of those live telescope feeds. And I can do like Saturn or the moon or something like that, maybe Jupiter, whatever. And, show you guys things that are in the night sky at high magnification. But this is more for doing deep sky viewing, where if I wanted to take a picture of something that the human eye can't perceive because it's just too faint, this is the camera that you want. So, to do all of that though, Ian, like I was saying, better network is what I need. And I have all the bandwidth in the world inside of the house. It's just the signal doesn't reach out here that well. So let's spend some money one of these weekends and get that wireless network extended out here so I can have pretty strong signal strength. Back to what I've got in here. That's the case for one of my cameras. That's a case for a bunch of other cabling that I might need depending on what camera I'm putting on, or maybe no cameras at all and I just want to take the cables off and store them. And then these cases are different eyepieces and other accessories for my telescope. Like I said, I do a bunch of volunteer work, and so we don't use the cameras most of those nights. We actually look through with our eyes the old-fashioned way. And so I've got different eyepieces in these cases here, and then these are boxes for various photography stuff, cameras, filters, that kind of thing. And then this big case here is the transport case for all of this stuff right here. It goes in there and it's got some wheels so I can wheel it around because it's pretty damn heavy. I do need to get a new case for the actual telescope itself. With all of these new accessories that I put on here, this doesn't fit in the original case. This thing it's just too tall now. I don't know if that flipped for you guys or what. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. So let me see if I can't move this to another orientation, give you a tour around the telescope a little bit more. Alright, so this is actually, this little piece right here is actually a computer. It's about as strong as a entry-level laptop, like a Chromebook or something like that, maybe a little bit stronger. And that controls everything. All of this is controlled by that little guy up there. The images that we were seeing on my laptop earlier, This software is actually running on there. I'm just remoted into it through a wireless network. If I want to move my telescope, I use a wireless network connection to send the command to this, and this actually connects to the telescope mount and moves it. This is a dew control system. If the humidity gets high and it wants to condense on the lens on the front of my telescope, that's going to ruin images. So this thing actually has a thermostat in it, and it heats this thing just like an electric blanket right around where the glass is, and that keeps the glass warm and the dew from collecting on it. It also has additional ports where I can put more straps. I could maybe put one up here on the secondary telescope. I could put one back here to keep any humidity from condensing on the sensor of the camera itself, because water and electronics is bad. I could even put one back here to keep it off of the electronics of this camera as well. It's got 4 different ports to allow me to do that. And then these ports down here are more for temperature sensors. I've got one temperature sensor here to make sure that doesn't get too hot. And then there's one on the back side that measures the air temperature, and it always tries to keep us about 5 degrees above air temperature. This is a 7-port USB 3.0 hub, and that's connected directly to this computer through that cable right there. This is power cord, and so that hub divvies out all of the all my cables for the different cameras and wireless networking attachments connect through it, and then they get routed either back through the mount and down to these wireless nodes that I've got here, or to cameras. Over here on the other side is my power management. I have one power cable that powers everything, and this is the input, and then all of these are outputs. This is a lot like a power splitter you would have in your house, and it all runs off of direct current instead of AC like your walls. So all of the electronics, like my camera there, the USB hub, even that computer over here, it all draws its power out of here, and I had to make all of these cables custom. It wasn't too hard to do, just a little bit of network, not network, just regular like stereo cable splicing to make those cables work. And so far everything's been running off of it. It hasn't caught on fire. So that's again another little tour of the telescope itself, and everything that I've got in the observatory at this point. So you can still see that I've got some paint stuck in certain areas, but this was all black before. It was nasty. It was flaking off. It was falling apart. I was washing it out of my hair for a couple of days, and it was just nasty, nasty stuff. I've still got paint on the inside of my SUV from when I brought this down here, and it was it's just everywhere. So Jill and I, we power washed everything. In fact, you can still see that there's some of it in here that we just couldn't get to, but these were all black, and they were starting to peel off, and it was just getting everywhere. And so we used a power washer and a bunch of chemical strippers to remove all the paint from everywhere in here. And like I said, there's still some areas where the paint was just too dang stubborn to come off of, and I'm not worried about it because it's more stained plastic than it is paint that's gonna flake off and maybe get on something. So that's better for me. I don't really care that it looks ugly. I just don't want it to fall on something and, you know, maybe get into a gear or fall on a camera sensor or on my my optics up here and block some of the light or damage something. So anyway, that's a tour of the observatory with the telescope in it, and hopefully if we ever get some clear skies soon, I'll be able to turn this thing on and again try and do one of these live things. Maybe I'll use my laptop over here so I can use the webcam on it instead of my phone, and that way I can orient this in such a way that you'll be able to see me and I can talk to it, as well as be able to see the telescope like from an angle like this. And then, or maybe I just set my phone up on a stand like this and talk to you guys while I'm using it. But I'll be able to do live feeds this way, and try and stream video from my laptop, so you guys will be able to see a live view of maybe the moon, or, you know, whatever it is I want to look at that particular night as I'm taking pictures. So Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this right now, and I will hopefully see you guys in the future.